I did want to say just a couple of things by way of brief background about Mr. Motani. Before joining Japan Research Institute, Mr. Motani was at the Development Bank of Japan from 1988, just joining the institute 2 years ago. He served at various positions at the bank and currently has a title there. His previous positions there included Assistant Director, Senior Advisor, and Senior Vice President of the Department for Regional Development. Mr. Motani is a leading expert in Japan on demography and the regional economic situation that Japan finds itself. He's author of a couple best-selling books. One, The Silver Tsunami, Japan's Non-Monetary Deflation, and a book called Regional Vitality of Japan from 2007. He's also a pretty well-known television commentator on issues of Japan economy and regional economic issues. He has a MA in law from University of Tokyo and an MBA from Columbia University. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Motani, and he'll get us started. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for introducing me. I'm Motani from Japan. It's very honorable for me to have this chance to make a presentation and discussion with you. I try to make for less than 30 minutes. I love to discuss a lot of things, and we don't have enough time to discuss all. But if you have any questions about what's going on in Japan in terms of the economy and policy, I try to answer as much as possible. I'm from Japan, and I arrived last night, and I'm a traveler, a permanent traveler, traveling all around the world. And maybe not many of you have visited 50 states of the United States, but I did many years ago. Some of the states has not changed so much since then. And I have a lot of friends in Washington State, not D.C., and it's near Seattle and the mid-Washington, D.C., and Washington State. And personally, I visited the state this summer, too. And I lived outside Japan twice, one in New York when I studied in Columbia University, and the other I lived in Singapore pretty recently in year 2009. You know, Singapore is a little far side from the east coast of the United States, but it's a rolling, interesting place. Have you ever visited Singapore? Thank you. How long ago?
7 years ago.
7 years ago. So it has changed a bit, but it's already developed. If you visit Singapore 20 years ago, it's totally a different country. But if you observe America, New York and Seattle is totally very different. And if you observe Japan, and I know every countryside, every small village in Japan, that's quite unique to me. It doesn't make money at all, but I know I'm the most knowledgeable person about the Japanese precise geography that has nothing to do with you. And I know quite a lot about Southeast Asia now, and I visit sometimes China and Korea. Then also several times in Europe. I try to understand, conceive what's going on in the world. I'm the realist. Okay, you can say I'm conservative, I'm liberal. I'm not neither. I'm realist. I try to be as practical as possible to think it for. But I personally don't believe in big government. I believe in smaller government. But indeed, our smaller. I'm a bit afraid that Prime Minister Abe is getting ahead toward going into or make the government a little bigger than you think, because the definition of conservatism in Japan and the United States are different. But I'm going to talk a bit about economy. Please see the screen. Watch the screen. I just thought, or maybe the audience would be political people, not economists, but I try to make it very simple. But if you are an economist, maybe you feel uneasy with my explanation. I'm kind of an alternative economist. I don't like GDP. I don't trust those figures made up with the estimate. I believe in accumulated absolute number from real research in the field. Do you see this? What's this? This is the retail sales, domestic retail sales in Japan in terms of yen in trillion. How much is yen in trillion? It's 100 billion. It's $10 billion US dollars. You know, 1 yen is 1 cent. It's very easy to understand right now. Okay, 1 yen is equivalent to 1 cent. So 100 yen is $1 right now. But anyway, this is the domestic sales since 1985 to the last year. You see, it grew and then it became flat. And this is the situation so-called deflation in Japan. I don't talk about a price, but I just show you total sales. Okay, total gross retail sales in the United States has been growing forever. But Japan is flat for the last 20 years. Why? If I add our personal income tax, what is a personal income tax? There's no concrete figure about personal income without estimate, but there's only one figure from tax office in Japan. Maybe you don't like tax, but believe me, Japanese people in average are pretty honest to pay tax honestly. Maybe we don't like to pay it, but we are very honest, like usual Americans, I hope. Very different from other Asian, maybe, I'm not sure. But anyway, this figure is pretty correct because it's the tax, this is the personal income reported to the tax offices all over Japan, accumulated one. See, our personal income, individual income went up until 1991 and it became flat, basically. And there's one big problem about this. Okay, you can say two things. Okay, gross retail sales became flat because the personal income became flat. It corresponds very well. Second thing, well, personal income fluctuated. It went up, went down, went up, and went down. Okay, at last time it went up 15 trillion yen. It increased by 15 trillion yen. Okay, some Japanese individually earned more money in year 2007 because of your bubble. You remember that? You know, the bubble before Lehman shock. We prospered through the export. But domestic consumption didn't increase. So if you're an economist, you feel uneasy with those figures shown only in Japan. I swear, if in the United States, if individual income increase, your sales increase. Americans don't save. I'm not sure, but they say you don't save. You spend more than you earn. But Japanese like to save more than we spend. So increase in income did not make the consumption go up. Then the income went down because of the Lehman shock. Then our consumption didn't go down. You know that? So our deflation is a very difficult thing. It's partly economical, but it's a little different from usual economy. So why this happens? I want to add one more thing. It's the export of Japan. Okay? Our export has doubled in the last 20 years before Lehman shock, and it then went down because of recession in the United States, and it went up again. It's now 1.5 times more than what it was 20 years ago. You see, in American theory, if you have 1.5 times more export in 20 years, why don't you have stronger consumption, better income? Okay, in Japan, more export does not mean more income, does not mean more consumption. Maybe you feel drowsy, but I'm not talking about my personal belief, but it's a concrete figure of very existing survey in Japan. It's accumulation. It's not estimate. So Prime Minister Abe's problem, he has a lot of problems, but one of his problems is that he doesn't know those figures. He's indifferent to those. I mean, in general, he's indifferent to reality. But in reality, if you want to make export more go up, then maybe it will not increase domestic demand. You know, or they say Japan is now losing the international competition, but it's not a main topic of me today, but I have to say we are earning money from most of the world. Actually, our largest customer, I have to say thank you again, our largest customer, providing us a huge amount of money in the United States. And we earned from you 9 trillion yen last year, and we paid 11 trillion yen to Middle East. It's like we are transferring money from the United States to Middle East. I'm very sorry about that. Actually, we don't want to, but anyway, we are earning money from most of the Asian emerging economy. China, this China includes Hong Kong, okay? And I don't include Taiwan into China. I think Taiwan is different. But anyway, China, Taiwan, South Korea, Singapore, Thailand, we are earning about 2 trillion yen last year. Maybe some of you don't know this. We just lost money. We paid money only to buy some natural resources. So we paid money to Malaysia, Indonesia, Australia, and the Middle East. But from most of all the other world, we are earning money. So that's why our export, is pretty steady. One thing to note is most Japanese don't know this. Okay, if you ask many Japanese, maybe some of Japanese here don't know that we are earning money from China. We just lost our confidence at all. We really don't know about a fact. We just believe in rumor. But in reality, we are earning money from all over the world, especially from the United States. Thank you again. And we are one of the largest customers of the Middle East. And but this kind of increase in export didn't contribute to the domestic economy at all. Then I have to add one more thing: monetary base. What is a monetary base? It's money provided by the Bank of Japan to boost up the Japanese domestic economy. Last year, in average, it was 4 times more than that 20 years ago. I'm sorry, 3 times more than that 20 years ago. United States government also increased the monetary base in the United States. It's a QE 2 and 3, but Japan was a predecessor of the United States in terms of increasing monetary base. And if the economic theory invented in the United States is true universally, then this kind of the real monetary easing policy should have stimulated domestic economy, but it had nothing to do with real demand inside Japan. Okay. You don't blame me when I say it didn't work at all. Well, Prime Minister Abe actually is still then increasing the monetary base. So at the end of this July, the monetary base was 173 trillion yen. It's 50 trillion yen more than the last year. It's about this size. And what happened to the domestic demand? Retail sales from January to July, well, they say it's a great increase, but actually it increased only 0.3%, okay? 0.3% increase compared to the last year at the same period. And I have to say, history repeats itself. I mean, whatever we did, we increased the export, okay? We increased the monetary base. Sometimes we had more personal income. Then the gross retail sales in Japan stayed flat. So when I was asked, will the Abenomics work? I say no. Why? I don't blame Mr. Abe. I don't blame anybody. It's like a stubborn guy with no, dying and sleeping all the time. And whatever you say, they don't listen. I mean, there's no reaction to your deed. It's very miracle, but that's Japan. But I have to note again, okay, if you see downturn of the export, if you see downturn of personal income, or domestic sales is stable, okay, you don't know the reason, but I say it's very stable. Japanese economy is very, very stable. Well, we had a very severe earthquake hit Japan this year. It didn't affect the export. Actually, export increased in that year. Okay, and domestic sales didn't fall down. Personal income didn't fall down. There was no sign of the big earthquake hit Japan. I have to say, it's very stable. No excitement at all, but very stable. It's like a quiet sergeant in your army band, or with very little thing to say, but it's a very reliable person. He's not be a good commander, but he's a good, or it's a good mate to fight together. Okay, so what I have to explain why is it so. Okay, the main key factor determining Japanese economy is actually number of employed. It's what is so-called job. So, job is you're present, or say job is number one priority. Well, in Japan, it's not like that because the number of jobs is very stable. It's not increasing so much, it's not decreasing so much, but you can say it's gradually declining, number of job. If you pick up the number of job, okay, this is the number of job, those who are employed in Japan, and it includes the part-time jobbers, all part-time jobbers with very low wage too. And what determines the number of those employed? Actually, working age population has been determining the number of those employed. You feel drowsy or confusing. Okay. What is the unemployment ratio in the United States? Maybe it's 8% now. In some European countries are maybe 20% or 15% are unemployed. What is that percent in Japan? Well, it depends on the research, but they say it's maybe 3 to 4. And if you just see the national census, it's a little more accurate because we asked all Japanese to answer. It's about 5%. But anyway, unemployment rate in Japan is very low compared to other advanced economy. Then I have to I'm going to change this graph a little bit. I just want to change the scale. Believe me, I don't like this kind of graph with no zero here. I usually try to make graph with zero shown on the field, not to exaggerate the amount so much. But this time, I just abandoned my policy to make it or my graph to exaggerate what's going on here. Okay, this is the same figure, number of employed are including those more than 65 years old, and I have to add that this includes our foreigners living in Japan. But we have only 2 million foreigners living in Japan among 127 million Japanese. Okay, I have to repeat again. We have only 2 out of 127 foreigners. 2 million foreigners out of 127 Japanese in the same small islands. I mean, foreigners, it's very limited. It's not because of our restriction policy, mostly just because Japanese language is so difficult to understand for everybody else. You understand that? And also, for most Japanese, English is very difficult to understand. So that's why it's very difficult to communicate for foreigners with Japanese in Japan. But anyway, this includes the foreigners just a little bit. Okay, number of employed has been fluctuating a little bit, but basically it's flat if you make this scale like this. And this is the one, number of employed was the age between 15 to 64. And this is the number of employed including those more than 56 years old. okay, in Japan, we have many seniors actually working, like 7 million to, or yeah, in average, 7 million seniors are working. Among those 7 million, we have some 2,000 seniors over 100 years old are working in Japan, they say are. So in Japan, if you are over 100 years old, 4% of you are still working. I don't know why, but not for money, but that maybe for their pride or fun. But anyway, this is the number of employed between 15 to 64, okay? You see this? And this red line shows 70% of working age population. Do you see the difference? What is this? Okay, we have Japanese, are those people living in Japan, working age population is 15 to 64 years old, okay? 70% of those working age population seems to have job, and it corresponds so well. There are some fluctuation, but in average, you can judge in last 20 years, 70% of the working age population has job, and 7 more million senior has job too. And it has been very stable, but declining gradually, and that has been determining the number of the job, number of those employed in Japan, and that determines the gross retail sales. Do you see this flow naturally? Do you feel it natural, or you feel it very artificial? Well, it's my observation. I don't really trust any theory written in a book. I'm very, very realistic person. I believe only in reality. Then I don't believe in macroeconomics or microeconomics or Marx economics and all those theories. Then what I observe from reality, I just judge. Okay, in Japan, declining working age population made our number of the job declining. Then our gross wage decline and our total gross sales decline. Sometimes you earn money more than you work. I mean, this personal income includes the financial income. Sometimes you make money out of your stocks and earn more, but you don't spend those money. You use those increased income just to invest more to stocks, to lose it, and you don't spend it. Why 70%? Okay, 30% of the 15 to 64 years old in Japan does not work. Ingredients, 8% students, 5% unemployed, 12 house workers, 5% others. And the big problem, 25% of the 15 to 64 years old women remains to be house workers. Not only housewives, but the house daughters. I mean, are those women living together with their parents, doing nothing but just houseworks with no payment. And we have John Lennon in Japan too. 1% of men also do serve as a house worker with no payment. But you see, there's a big difference of men and women here. I have to say, okay, 75% of women are working. Okay, we are not Muslim. I mean, we have no religion or philosophy against prevent women from working, but it's just tradition remaining. Then or they don't join the economy, and everybody say, well, we need deregulation. No, it's not a regulated thing. It's just a custom. So the regulation needed in elder males, Japanese males' mind, not in real regulation. But anyway, everybody who study about Japanese economy recommends Japanese to hire more women. That's a solution to cope with this situation. But anyway, it's like this. It's been like this. And I have to explain one more thing. Why Japanese working age population has been decreasing. Is it structural or is it any problem? Are many Japanese are now refugee going out of the country? No, it's not. It's like this. Please take a look at this. Don't forget this. It's the main part of my presentation. This kind of things is happening in Japan. It's Japan before the war, right after the war, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, the peak of Japanese economy, then 10 years ago, and now, or you can say 3 years ago. 10 years later, 20 years later, 40 years, 30, 40, 50 years later. You see what's going on here. Okay, you appear at the left side and you go to the right. You don't die. You pause up here. Finally, you disappear. Right now, the majority of Japanese society are baby boomers. That is now or over 60s. Your baby boomers is not younger. Actually, our baby boomers were born right after the war. Because Japan stopped, or you beat Japan before the total destruction. Actually, the most Japanese survived, and right after the war, we enjoyed peace. We had so many number of babies, and they didn't die at all. Right now, they are all alive, becoming 60s, and they had kids. In average too. Or they are now going over 40s. Now we have only one kid in average. Okay, they were 4 sisters and brothers. They were 2 sisters and brothers, and they have only one kid. Then we're gonna see real increase of elderlies. And 30 years later, majority of Japan's over 85 years old. Second majority is around 67. Or Ichiro, a baseball player playing in or New York Yankees, he belongs to this segment. And it's a huge shift. Then you see that kind of shift made this phenomenon, our working age population, increased until 1995, then start decreasing since then. We're going to see the decrease forever. I'm not sure, maybe next 50 or 70 years. And also we saw an increase of the seniors. Actually, it tripled so far. You can argue why Japanese government are running and were accumulating so huge deficit. It's just mainly because of this. Okay, providing social welfare to those seniors, especially pensions, with government expenditure, caused accumulating deficit. So it's quite different from yours. I mean, you're still young. Actually, your aging ratio is more than half of Japanese. I mean, there's no reason for for you to accumulate such huge deficit. I don't know why you did it. But in Japan, it's obvious. It's to feed those people. Do you think those are just totally nonsense thing to do? Actually not, because the Japanese seniors now have huge amount of savings, and they all bought government bond. So 95% of the huge amount of Japanese government bond is now owned by Japanese, mainly by those old seniors. It's like, provide a pension, those seniors buy your government bond in circulation. It's ridiculous, but it's a reality in Japan. And then, okay. So, because our working age population declined, number of the workers start declining, and it's a mechanical correlation. You can just predict the number of the job in Japan just by how many those gonna be 65 years old and how many those gonna be 15 years old, which is larger, can decide how many employment you're going to have, increase or decrease. Well, maybe it's a difficult figure to understand, but I'm going to leave this file, so please take a look. If you're interested in, please get it from the foundation. I always, or say yes to deliver my presentation to those who listen to it. So you can just find it. You can just take a look, precise look at it. Okay, but this is a real astonishing figure to the economists. Okay, in Japan, in the last 50 years, economy did not decide the number of employment, number of jobs, but just demography decided it. The correlations, R square is the 0.84. It's very strong. And this is something, the core of my book, written only in Japanese, and most Japanese economists stopped talking to me. I mean, they try to neglect this fact as much as possible. They don't want to discuss about this because it makes them fired. I mean, we don't need them to predict things. And Prime Minister Abe says he's going to increase the number of jobs this year. It's impossible because naturally we're going to have this amount of decrease. It's very difficult to make up this gap. There's only one way we can do it. We have about 10 million women, young women between 15 to 64 with no job, not student, with no job, just doing house plans. And we have research, more than 3 million out of those 10 million women are willing to work right now if they have proper job, whatever the part-time, or they don't count. So if we succeed to provide those women with the whatever kind of job, decent one, then we can make up this gap this year. But bad thing about Japan, those conservatists in Japan are rather conservative towards women are working. I don't know why. It's not a traditional Japanese way of thinking. Actually, it's not traditional Japanese way. Japanese first politician was a queen, and we have goddess other than God in Japan. And it's a woman-oriented society. It used to be before the influence from China came. Okay, so if we are conservative, if we respect the tradition, we can just return to Japanese tradition to let more women work. We're different from other Asian countries, or we're different even from Christianity countries. I mean, we don't believe in God, male God. Actually, we have God and goddess together. But anyway, but the real problem is that Japanese companies, many of them are not willing to hire more people, whatever, man or woman. I mean, they try to restructure their operation to minimize the cost because we have very weak demand. Okay, if you see this kind of weak demand, and for the last 20 years, you feel like you will not have more demand forever. Then what you have to do is just cut off your cost to fight against Chinese import. And you don't want to really hire any more people. Rather, you buy robots. Actually, we are the largest producer of robots in the world. So Adam Smith revived and visited Japan. He would be surprised and to rewrite his famous book that decreasing population will not decrease this production, but decreasing population actually decreased the employment, but it really increased the productivity, or total production even become larger under the decreasing population. Oh, this is a figure from factories all over Japan, okay? It includes all big and small factories in Japan, including Toyota, even including the factory, only one old man making some kind of handcraft, okay? So in last 35 years, okay, we have less people working in factory, and more productivity become 1.5 times more, and that made our export 1.5 times more than before. With the robotics, we are more advanced. We are most advanced in terms of that. We don't need people to work in factories. We don't need foreign laborers either. Okay, many people require Japanese to hire foreign laborers. How about Mexicans, Indonesian? No, we don't need. Why? Because we don't need cheap labor. Robots substitute those jobs. They don't drink, they don't buy, they don't coast. They don't need healthcare. So this is the trap we went into, okay? We need less people to work, then our consumption's weak, our GDP is stagnating, but it's not destroyed yet. Okay, this is the point I made. So please. Okay, I stop, and then I have some suggestions, and also I have to say, we are not the isolated. Actually, all the other countries in the world are following our track. So it's not only Japanese story, but actually, almost all the country is just becoming like Japan, except maybe United States. You were always very unique in the world. But China and Korea is obviously just behind Japan. But I'm going to explain by answering our several questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That was terrific. I love numbers like that.
What is that?
Because I agree with you. It's better just to see the numbers.
Thank you.
And it says so much just looking at them. I've seen a lot of Japanese presentations that are very heavy on statistics, and usually doesn't explain anything. But this really explains what's going on. Really, it's really terrific. I'm also glad to see someone from Japan willing to be very different from whatever the prevailing opinion is, because that's also been my experience. Hard to find someone that will step out and risk the ire of his colleagues in his profession and take a very different view. So it's very very useful. While you guys are thinking of some questions, I'm sure you'll have some. I wanted to ask you I noticed on the charts where you had the graphs there that the increased money supply had no. You pointed out that it's having no impact on sales. But it also seemed to have no impact on exports, which is one of the arrows in Abe's quiver, is that he has used monetary policy in order to drive exports, and he's gotten some credit for that. Am I misperceiving that, or why don't you stand up?
You're right, pointing out the very important point. Yeah, it didn't really affect export. So I have to say one thing that are.
And does that trend continue?
Yes. I personally, I don't really know so much about I personally don't know Mr. Abe, but I know quite well the Mr. Ishiba, the partner, and he's a realist, But I suspect Mr. Abe doesn't know about export trends. Not only Abe, but many Japanese I meet believe that export become half in the last 20 years. They don't know. They have never checked the real figure. They just believe our export has been declining. And we are losing money against China and Korea and all the other parts. Every time I make presentation in Japan, 400 times a year, okay, I let the audience answer my quest by showing this. And about 70% of the audience in anywhere says that we are running in deficit against Korea, for example. So that's why he just wanted to expand the monetary base to cope with this. But in reality, last year yen was appreciated greatly, record high. But still, last year actually we had more money. We earned more money from the United States than the year before last year. Actually, our high yen appreciation means that we are more competitive. Okay, and because the yen appreciation, we don't have to pay. We have to pay less to Middle East. So actually, yen depreciation is affecting a little this year. It's decreasing the amount of our trade our surplus from international transaction. You understand that?
The current policy is
So,
decreasing?
yes, that's right. But actually, yen depreciation this year is not derived from our current policy, actually. I mean, yen was appreciated too much. It was extreme. So in average, it should be about $1, 100 yen is the adequate level compared to the, just if you think the real power of the economy. They say 103 can be maybe the desirable figure. So it was 77, and it went up down to 103. So it's not because of the policy, but it's natural adjustment of the economy.
So those two trends continue, that is the increase in the money supply this year
Yeah.
and the relatively flat export growth, it continues that way?
Yeah, it's a flat, yes.
Yeah.
And flat. So, or yes, I think it will be stable this year, and the monetary base increase will not affect will have no effect to whichever. I mean, so currency rate will be around 100 yen. I think, and also stock price too. It went up, but now it's stable.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you were the believer of Krugman, maybe you have different opinion, but
He doesn't care about the numbers either.
No, so it's becoming more like religion.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Expectation can make something. It's like isn't like a seminar of some kind of religious people, but I don't believe this. Yes, and it doesn't really affect.
Right. That's fascinating. That's why the numbers are so great to see. Well, let me see if there's any questions in the audience here. Yeah, all the way in the back. Please, you want to come up?
Hi,
Microphone.
Luke Moon, Institute on Religion and Democracy. I was curious, also following on that, kind of the cheap monetary policy or the quantitative easing kind of format in Japan. You said it increased to 50 trillion yen this last year, but it doesn't reflect, as you say, in the retail sales. But do you think it shows up in perhaps healthcare spending or other areas where that I'm not seeing here? Because it seems like with increasing number of an aging population and retiring Japanese, that you would see the real money being funneled not into retail but into healthcare.
Thank you very much. So all those questions are very keen ones. Pointing out the real problem. Yes, that's right. So if you see the expenditure, healthcare expenditure or medical expenditure in Japan, it is correlation, 100% correlation to absolute number of those over 75 years old in Japan. Okay, compared to various Americans, maybe various Japanese are healthier. So if you don't go to hospital so often before you become 75 years old. But number of those over 75 years old in Japan has doubled, okay, in the last 20 years, and our healthcare expenditure has been doubled, yes. And we're going to spend more. But one happy thing about Japan, okay, see the last sentence. I'm sorry, it's not, yes, some problem. Okay, it's going to be a stable one. No. It starts showing my figure. Okay. The most aged on the globe. Okay, Japan is the most aged country in the world.
Try unplugging it and plugging it back in.
Yeah. Okay, our average expenditure, average Japanese expenditure for medical service is about $3,000 per year, and yours is $8,000 per year. Even though your aging ratio is more than half, about maybe 45% of Japan. I mean, we are coping, working very well to make the healthcare expenditure very lot lower than the usual country. We have been succeeding there, so that's why we're still going on. I mean, without that, if we have the same level of healthcare expenditure as you have, we're already bankrupt. You understand that? Do you agree to that?
It's right here.
Hi, Mr. Matani. Thank you very much for this presentation. I have a question. I was reading the news, and the Prime Minister Abe seems that he's going to go forward with the increase of sales tax to 8%.
Ah, yes.
And you have shown that personal income doesn't really affect retail sales. So I was wondering, do you think that the tax increase will have any impact on consumption?
Oh, such a very good question. Actually, it will affect the personal consumption, I think, because why? Because
It's a bug in the system.
okay, no problem. It's okay. In last time, they increased the ratio from 3 to 5. Okay, also our domestic sales dropped a little bit, and we're gonna see again a little bit drop of domestic sales maybe next year. But real problem, more serious problem is that or it's a Japanese company's tendency. We've been fighting, competing with China. You know that, or you're not being competing with Mexico or Canada in the same sense as we are being competing with China, not military, economically. Okay, they have 1/10 wage compared to Japan. They have 10 times more people there, and they pay a lot less cost to preserve the environment. Okay, and then we've been doing that. Then most Japanese had learned how to cope with fight against China while cutting down the cost again. Then if you see the social one bad thing about Japan, okay, our consumption tax is included one. I mean, that if in United States you pay $10, if you say the price is $10, you have to pay tax additionally. But in Japan, if you say it's 10, tax is included in it. That's a real bad thing. Okay, if you have the more tax ratio increase, the company will not raise their price. They still say it for $10, and they try to decrease the cost to compensate the sales tax increase. Do you understand that kind of feeling? If you just raise your price, you feel like you would lose your market, and Chinese cheaper goods will or dominate the market. Then you don't want to raise your price, and you want to cut down more costs. That means you're going to cut down the wage and your salary. Okay, or any other expenditure that would be a sales of other companies, then that will make our economy shrink, I think. But I personally believe I cannot help the accepting the raise of the tax. Is 5% is too low, and we are spending twice more than we earn currently. I personally believe we should cut off the government expenditure, but it's impossible to cut off to the half this year. If you dominate our Senate or our House of Representatives, maybe you will not be able to do that, half in 1 year. Then we have to put up with the tax increase, even though that will, affect the economy very much. I believe in healthier. I believe in the value of healthier government expenditure rather than temporary boom of the economy. You understand what I mean?
So you do expect then the increase in the sales tax that goes through will impact the retail sales negatively?
Yeah, it has a very negative impact on retail sales and also our wage, domestic consumption, all those things. But still, it's obvious we've been spending a lot more than we pay.
But then what impact will that then have on the GDP figure? Not that you care much about it, but the whole world watches the GDP.
Okay. Well, GDP will go down, I think, a bit. Well, then Prime Minister Abe, who tend to, seek to bigger government, he tried to expend more to compensate, to make the GDP up. And he will, lend money more and he will spend up more. And then you say, oh, Japanese GDP is flat or is growing. But I don't think it's a good thing.
So he will spend all of the money.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We are from the same prefecture. I'm from Yamaguchi Prefecture with the legend of 3 arrows. You know that? You know, the Abenomics prefecture is one of the 47 prefectures in the Western local community in the Japanese, and our ancestors made a major restoration, or we can say it's a revolution. So you can feel we are a little. I'm talking a little in radical manner. I don't really believe in radicalness, but in terms of. But anyway, we are from same prefecture, and we have all of our argument. But I think he is a little different from usual people from Yamaguchi Prefecture. He's more traditional.
Other right here in the center.
Hello, my name is Jaime Arbon, and I work for the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I'm an economist there. My question is, every time we hear about the Japanese economy, we hear about deflation and liquidity trap, and Paul Krugman saying, hey, they need more spending, more stimulus. My question to you is twofold. Why is it that economists keep asking the same thing and recommending the same positions when we learn from you that the real problem lies in age population and demographics? And also, if Shinzo Abe is capable of succeeding and raising inflation and creating inflation for the Japanese economy, what would this do to the morale of the Japanese population?
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, I've been asking the same question to myself, especially the first one. Why don't they talk at all? Why do not they talk at all about demography in Japan? And it's because, we have many local communities in Japan, like North Dakota, with declining population, with less sales everywhere. And I'm from the regional study. I study the regional economy first. Then I observe, where if you are in a prefecture with the decreasing population, your sales will be smaller. That's very natural, right? But if you just read economic theory, macroeconomic theory, there's nothing written about that. Because you assume that your demographic, your population is flat. And also, not assumption is that whatever age you are, you will do the same, okay? If you're more than 65 years old, you earn and you spend up money if you earn. That's ridiculous, especially in Japan. If you're over 65 years old, you still work. Compared to Americans, European, we love to work, and we save up money again, and it's ridiculous, but majority of Japanese die with huge saving without spending it up again. Many Japanese, hit the highest point of his or her saving in their life when they die. You understand that? It's totally beyond the assumption of economists, beyond the assumption of economy, but they don't really argue this because this is against their premises, okay? Yeah, premises. So if you just allow this fact, then they have to rewrite all the theories, and they don't want to do that. It's just like Lehman shock's mathematics that caused Lehman shock. The amount of risk, their premises is everything has normal distribution, but it was a T distribution rather than normal distribution, so they had more risk. But they didn't really wanted to change the theory because it's too much work for them. You understand that? And I'm sorry, I'm very angry about those. But most Japanese economists are like that. They don't believe in reality. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's talking about your healthcare argument. I feel like both sides don't believe in reality, but in reality, you have to try to minimize the expenditure as much as possible. You have no room to stick to your creeds, whatever creeds. You have to be very practical. But in Japan, actually, the total healthcare system working very well to lessen the expenditure, social expenditure or personal expenditure to the medical system, because you can go to the doctor beforehand, before you make it very bad. then it costs a lot less. It's like a toothache thing too. But anyway, you have to be very practical. But I'm saying I'm talking too much. But your second question is that yeah.
If Prime Minister Abe becomes successful in creating inflation.
Okay, that's right. Well, there's a chance for him to create inflation because government has been lending up so huge amount of money. So there's always a risk that we're going to have higher interest rate. Then there's actually right after the war, we experienced very severe inflation, and at the war, the government issued huge amount of the government bond to sell it to Japanese and Koreans, poor Koreans and Taiwanese, and they made the deficit against the GDP was about double. Okay, now it's again our government deficit is more than double of the GDP. It's about the same level. So there's a huge risk for Japanese to experience the same level of hyperinflation, and he has a chance to do that. But I hope most Japanese will be a little smarter to prevent him to do so, from doing so, by or sensing that we should not issue more bond, just seeing the interest rate market. You see the interest rate market, it's too much. Then there's huge risk. Then we should stop it. I try as much as possible to prevent them to do that. Yeah, but he likes risk. He's kind of mania, and actually, he's between depression and manic again.
I think we have to leave it there. But thank you so much for that presentation.
Thank you, Brian.
It was brilliant. Thank you.
Please take a look at the rest of our presentation. Then
you mentioned that. Where can we find the graphs? I think it'd be on the Heritage website and the recording.
There will be some figures telling about the United States and you see, Japan will get out of the tunnel before the first runner of the world, and we're going to go out the tunnel first as a first runner, and you will go into the big tunnel in the near future, and China will see real problem. So China risk is not a military risk, but their demographic risk is so huge. So please take a look at this document.
Well, we'll try to post them on the website. We'll try to post the
yes, please.
with your presentation.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Make it PDF and please post it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.